Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Somewhere between science and superstition.
We have such sights to show you.
Strange Eons. Welcome to Strange Eons Radio. That's Eric over there.
Howdy doody.
That's Vanessa over there.
Hola.
Hey, Eric, I just got to say, I was listening to the last couple episodes with the new microphones, and generally, and this is nothing personal, Vanessa,
Sure.
but your voice just annoys the fuck out of me. And I try to avoid listening to you. Well,
Is it like a wine person?
This is just you're just trying to get back at me for the wine comment. That's all.
But I will say that I thought that while I didn't really care for anything you were saying last week,
Sure.
that I could understand you and it didn't, just set off all the bugs that annoy me about your voice.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm glad to hear
so-
that. I will
So
go full
kudos to
NPR
Eric.
on your ass. You watch out.
I got a little bit of news here that probably is going to mean nothing to Vanessa, but I'm curious what Eric thinks of the fact that Oscar Isaac will be playing Moon Knight in the upcoming Moon Knight series on Disney+.
I know Moon Knight.
Are you a Moon Knight fan?
I've read enough Moon Knight. I want to be a bigger one, but I know
Which Moon Knight have you read? I'm not trying to gate crash or anything like that.
boy.
Just the
Yeah.
difference between a 70s Moon Knight
Oh, no,
and
a
current
modern,
Moon Knight is
current.
vast.
Yeah. No. I only know the current one. So I don't, I only know him as the character that may or may not actually be a hero or could just be insane.
Well, that's kind of been his character throughout, but it's been tackled much differently in recent times.
Yeah.
But the filmmakers that are bringing this are the guys that did Resolution, Spring, The Endless, and Synchronic.
Yeah,
That's weird to me.
I think it's great.
I'm not sure how I feel about it.
I think it's great, partially because I think the casting's really good. He's a little small, but
Yeah,
then again, Hugh Jackman was a little large, and that worked out.
that's true.
Yeah.
But he still can cast an imposing presence fairly well. I think he does that well. What
He's
was the
got an intense
yeah?
look on him, so that can work for him. But I noticed that in the casting, he is cast as Mark Spector.
Really?
And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because the Moon Knight I remember from the 80s with Sienkiewicz drawing him and everything, that was Stephen Grant, and everything was a offshoot of that personality.
They've got the different personalities. I've actually, like, within the last year, have reread the first 100 or so issues or more, a good chunk of early stuff, and early on they did a lot of switching between those three characters. I mean, quite literally, like he'd drive up in the cab, get out, go into his mansion, change for a while, then go out as Moon Knight. All three different characters, like in the span of 3 pages.
Right.
It'd be really interesting to see if they are changing that. If is he going to play all of the characters? Are they going to divide them out? Or?
I would assume he'd play all of them. I'm just interested to see how they tackle this. He's such a weird superhero.
Yeah, exactly. I think because the versions I've read have an element of comedy to them, that's why I was a little bit stressed out when I heard the Endless guys were like jumping on board, because I was like, they're really good at indie, like weird. I don't know how good they're gonna. We'll see.
The one Kelly just referenced, the Sienkiewicz years, could fall in very well.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that.
It was a very serious comic. It was not a. I mean, it had humor, but it wasn't a
kind of that
comedic based comic. It was pretty serious.
Yeah, and I think Oscar Isaac's going to be a fun watch, but we'll see.
I also think that Disney and Marvel have got it dialed in on how their movies work, and there is a fair amount of humor in all of their movies.
Yeah.
And they also seem to like to pluck these indie filmmakers out and throw a big budget in front of them, like Taika Waititi.
He's one of the few that like swam and didn't sink, though.
Yes. So I think that it can work. I mean, that Thor movie is right at the top of my favorite of the Marvel films.
Really fun.
Yeah. I mean, he's what, New Zealand? Australia?
New Zealand, yeah.
Yeah,
I also-
they're a brave people.
That's true.
That's very true. I also kind of feel that anybody who can tell a subtle story can crank it up to tell a more outrageous story easier than somebody who tells an outrageous story can dial it back down to tell a really subtle story.
Yeah.
And those guys tell overall very subtle
Mhm.
stories.
Well, they're
Big, but subtle.
yeah, they're really good at stretching a budget out. That's for
Jeez,
sure.
No kidding.
And Kevin Feige says that the show will make use of Egyptian iconography,
Sure.
and that tells me that they're at least going to play on the whole Khonshu
Right.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm encouraged. I'm very encouraged, actually. I think it sounds, because everything they're doing sounds like a Moon Knight thinking to me, as opposed to Moon Knight takes a lot of crap for just being Marvel's Batman,
Right.
which he's not. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe
But
the
he
first
kind of is.
the first run he definitely was, but as they deepened him, he became a lot more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure the person who wrote him originally is like,
Was
but
that Bill Mantlo or
I think so. It was somebody pretty big at the time.
Marv Wolfman? I can't remember.
It might have been Wolfman.
It didn't help too that Sienkiewicz comes on, and he at that time was a Neil Adams clone
Yeah,
doing
Yeah,
a
that's true,
Batman
doing
clone.
Batman.
So that, yeah,
he started off his career going, his favorite artist was Neil Adams. So he basically learned to draw just like Neil Adams, which
Oh.
almost killed his career.
Oh no. Oh, that sucks.
and then we were speaking about last week about shooting in different countries to make
Mhm.
use of whatever tax breaks they're getting. Moon Knight is set to begin shooting in Hungary in March
Ah,
and
Yeah.
premieres on Disney Plus in 2022.
There you go.
So,
between the Star Wars and the Marvel
It's gonna be a
things
crazy
they have planned, I mean,
fuck.
I've almost already kind of like, I don't know, maybe you guys have watched more of the trailers and are interested, but the Vision and Wanda show
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
coming out hasn't grabbed me at all, which is weird because anything Marvel usually at least gets me going, let's check it out. But
Mhm.
by the time
Did
this episode
you-
comes out, that should be on the air. The first
will it
episode.
be out? Okay.
Oh my god.
Is that HBO? Of course, it's
Disney
HBO.
Plus.
Oh, Disney Plus. I mean,
Dude,
I guess the question for me to you then would be, did you read the Vision
did
More Than a Man? Okay. That's why I'm excited.
oh, okay.
Yeah, because it's got a flavor to it, and if they get that right, it could be incredible.
Nice.
So
Very
otherwise,
cool.
yeah, I agree. I'm not into like the 1950s like blah 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 kind of stuff anyway. But
well, I did read a really good review for it just
Oh, good.
recently that said
Ah.
it's bizarre, but in the best possible way.
Oh,
Ooh.
well, okay.
So-
Then I'll probably like it a lot.
I watched this week a movie that I guarantee neither of you have heard of, but it was like one of my favorites from 1980, and it was called Die Laughing with Robby Benson.
no
Holy
idea.
crap. I mean, I know what you're referencing because of the name and everything, but no, I have not seen that.
Man, I don't know why I loved this movie so much when I was 10, but I really did. Robby Benson plays a struggling musician who is also a taxi driver, and his latest fare gets in with a suitcase, gets assassinated immediately, and Robby Benson takes off with the suitcase running away from the assassin. And in the suitcase is a monkey, a little spider monkey.
Oh my god.
And-
What?
This this whole thing, it's a comedy. It doesn't quite work because it's also a Hitchcockian thriller. These people are
Whoa.
trying to kill him and get this monkey
Oh
back.
my god.
And this
What?
monkey has these codes for a nuclear weapon in its brain that,
What?
that it has memorized.
What is this movie?
Uh,
You took such a hard turn.
and so he's running from this international assassins. He is also, his band is geared up to play at the Battle of the Bands, and that's
What?
super important to him.
No.
And the music in it is actually good and catchy, and it's actually him singing. He was one of the writers on this and the producer of the movie. It was just him trying to break out of the pretty boy thing he'd done as
Yeah.
a kid, and I was delighted through the entire thing.
Okay, question. Does the monkey play an instrument in the big final show?
God damn it, where were you when they were brainstorming this?
What? Okay, cool. What
I
an
loved it.
interesting film.
I loved it. Die laughing.
Yeah, I think we're probably going to go different after that. Have you seen anything that's better sounding than that?
Um,
No. So what did you watch?
Oh my God. I have to reset now. Jeez, my brain. Okay, well, I guess the closest to weird ass movies I watched was Greenland.
I have
Oh
not
boy.
seen this one.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I love disaster films
Mhm.
to the point where I thought that really bad one about like the weather changing was really fun.
Like 2012 or
2012,
oh
yeah.
no,
No,
the day
no.
after tomorrow.
No, no.
Oh no, what about you?
The one with the weather machine that they changed.
Oh, was that also with Gerard Butler?
I think it might have been
Like Geostorm?
Geostorm.
Oh.
I thought Geostorm was good. So
Man.
my bar is very low. It was pretty bad. Like not even fun. Bad.
Well, for sure not fun, but especially if the stuff that you like, because
Because it's hardly in there.
No,
I
it's
was like,
not disaster porn.
just throw more comets. The whole thing is there's a big comet and it broke off into little comets and all the teeny tiny little ones are gonna like come and crash on the earth. So it's supposed to be non-stop comet. No, it is full stop. Barely comet. Like, it could have used so much more comet and less like end of the world wandering around being assholes.
I say I did not even recognize this title when you said it, so I looked it up, and
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, the tagline or the producer credit at the top makes me go, yeah, I bet this was a confused mess. From the producer of John Wick, The Town, and Clash of the Titans.
Oh, boy.
Whoa. It
Do you-
is like if you took all three of those films.
Do you have any Rotten Tomatoes ratings on that? Because
I will find out.
I have a
Yeah.
feeling this was savaged by the critics because it is mean-spirited
Yeah.
and it's boring too.
Yeah,
It's like,
totally.
what?
Like, and you're just, it out of all the films to try to copy, Deep Impact is not high on my list. Aim higher because you will fall short. So aim higher.
It's got that beautiful woman, Morena Baccarat, as
Oh, yeah.
the wife.
Right.
And she's a really solid actor who gets nothing to do here. Except
Completely.
for one scene that is really kind of horrifying.
Yes.
Where her kid is taken from her.
Taken.
And I was watching this going, Jesus, this is so uncomfortable. Oh my God. Rotten Tomatoes has it at 72%, which
And
seems
the
high.
audience
Audience
as
is
well
66.
is high.
It's way too high, you guys. It's like a 30. It's like a
Hey,
rough. It's a
yeah.
rough picture.
Yeah, I agree.
And like you said, it's really difficult to watch in moments because the big action pieces in it are basically human beings being awful.
Yeah.
Like the worst. You think, oh, people are going to be bad during like the end. They're like, let's just focus only on that until we get to like the grandfather's house and then he's sweet and then they're gone. And I'm like, oh, it's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah, a bummer of a movie if what you're looking for is Armageddon or
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah. So hard pass. Hard pass.
I agree.
I've got one that isn't quite there yet, but if it keeps going, man, it could get rough. The Stand.
Mm,
Have you caught up on that? Have you watched the first 3 episodes yet, or just the
yeah.
You mentioned you talked about it, and you mentioned because I couldn't quite figure out what was bothering me because I haven't read The Stand since the 80s, and I couldn't. Why is this bugging me so much? And then you mentioned the problem it's having is it's showing you what's going on and then going into flashbacks. And the problem with that is, for me, my memory of reading The Stand, 70 to 80% of it is the trek to get to Boulder and Vegas.
It's just a bunch of people walking.
I know, yeah.
They must have heard that review and said, well, we can't have that.
And then when they get there, you start to get, you learn all these characters as they travel and you figure things out about them, but you really don't learn how deep some of their problems are until they're in Boulder and then the shit starts to go bad. Well, this movie or this show is that before you get to know the characters. They're revealing, oh, well, this one lady is in love with what's his name? The dark
Satan?
Are you talking about Flag? Or are you
Yeah.
talking- oh,
Yeah,
okay.
the blonde is
Oh, right.
fantasizing about him. And that seems like something that if you got to know her really well as a character, she's walking across the country to Boulder, picking up this poor kid who's got the guitar, and you're following just that story. And then you get there, that would have been a devastating revelation for that character. But I think it's in episode 2. You barely know them. It goes then after she's already revealed. I think it's after she's already revealed what a shit she is. You go back to the scene where the little kid steals the guy's guitar, which is a great scene.
Mhm.
So I'm like, this is a disaster in the way it could be very good, but the way they're chopping it up and telling the story is not going to work at all.
Man, I agree. And in the book, that character, and I can't remember her name now, but I can see her clearly. She is not the one who comes with the kid.
Oh, really? Okay.
So they've jammed 2 characters into that. And I was like, why would you make her the one who
a-
gets the kid? That doesn't make sense. The real problem is the book is an absolute masterclass in character development.
Yeah.
And by telling it out of order, you fracture all of these character arcs.
Yes.
And so you're just sitting there watching a bunch of scenes happen. And theoretically, at the end of this, you could look back and go, oh, this all makes sense to me now. But if you're a new viewer, I would think that you'd drop this by now, to be honest. I
Yeah.
feel like you have to have read the book to understand what's going on in this show.
Yeah, it's really, really disappointing because told in order, I think it would have worked because I think the performances are good. A lot of the characters are pretty good. The acting is good. The scene by scene writing is good. I mean, it's not like terrible lines or stuff, but it's just the creative choice to disjoint it. I don't know. Maybe they were worried that they'd lose the audience if all they showed was them traveling across the country. I'm like, well, you could put stuff in there. It worked fairly well for The Walking Dead. You know,
Yeah.
they walked
Yeah.
around and wandered for a long freaking time.
Maybe they were worried about being compared to that.
Yeah, could be.
I don't know, but it says a lot when you can look back at a Mick Garris film and go, well, he did the definitive version of this.
Yep.
And what is that on? Is that on
It's on
CBS.
CBS All
Oh,
Access.
CBS. Okay.
Still the most confusingly named
Yeah.
network. If it's all access, but only if you pay.
That's right. It's prepaid all access.
Yeah.
So it's no access for you.
And if you're a Star Trek fan, you have to. Like, it's only Star Trek fans that are subscribed.
You're probably right.
I am right.
I'm guessing
That's
that
the only
show-
new content. No one's signing up to that shit for Big Bang Theory, like rehab or whatever reruns.
No, it's got all the Amazing Race.
Yes, that's
And-
definitely what I want. You remember the days when people could freely live their lives and go out in public and watch The Amazing Race? That was just such a thing I miss. I want to watch that again.
You can still watch it. You just couldn't do it.
I know.
I'm sensing sarcasm.
I just don't think it's that great of a show. It's fine.
I decided to torture myself a little bit this week, and I watched back to back the new Halloween movie and Halloween H2O.
Oh, that's
You
fun.
mean like they haven't released the new one that's supposed to come out this
No, this
year?
is
The
from
one from-
2018.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that I hadn't missed something.
You pinned together
Reboot-quel.
two tonally such different films. If you didn't watch them in the right, no matter what order you watched that in, that's a bad experience.
Well, I did it specifically after reading that Taking Shape book
Oh,
Yeah.
and realizing that H2O did the exact same thing that the new Halloween movie did. They ignored all of the sequels,
Mhm.
Yeah.
except for they did say that part 2 was one of the sequels they
Canon.
were coming off of,
Mhm.
because it's got Jamie Lee Curtis now, 20 years later, which is
Right.
weird because the new one is 40
40
years
years.
later. And it's like,
Uh.
there's been 20 years between H2O and the new Halloween movie?
Yeah.
That's
God.
crazy.
I feel old.
And I will say this, upon watching both of those films, H2O is the better film. The mask is awful and looks stupid,
Yeah.
but it's a much more satisfying film.
I was
It's
never
fun.
a hater of H2O. It was one of those that I knew was not good, but I didn't think Halloween after first one was particularly good anyways.
No.
So I go into it with no expectations and thought, this is a lot of fun. Unless you're a Halloween perfectionist. And boy, do they hate that movie.
Well, I don't know why. I mean, the mask looks awful.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't
yeah.
know what was going on there that they thought good enough, but it looks like shit. And LL Cool J, always fun to watch.
A delight.
Yep.
A total
Yep.
delight.
A national treasure. And I thought that, I don't know, I thought Jamie Lee Curtis was really solid in it. There was some stupid stuff in it, and it suffers from coming right after Scream.
Mhm.
So it's got a little bit of that
Yeah.
going on in it. And introducing Josh Hartnett.
Oh, and his great
yeah.
hairstyle.
Oh boy, yeah. There was stuff to not like in it, but overall, as a story, it made so much more sense to me than the 2018
Yeah.
film.
hmm
So,
I think it's a super, super fun film. I don't hate the 2018 film. I think it's got some interesting pieces.
Sure.
But yeah, there's plenty to dislike in that, where Halloween H2O feels like an amusement park ride. It just
Sure.
it's just fun. It's silly and it's fun, and then you're done and you're like, that was good.
they both suffer from the idea, like Kevin Williamson was brought in for H2O,
Mhm.
and he basically wrote an ending, which was a Jamie Lee Curtis agreed to do, was, okay, I'll end this franchise by being in it, and we'll kill Michael, and that's it.
Done.
And it was a success. So there was no
Oops.
way that the Accods were going to let that go without another sequel.
Darn
and
right.
the same thing happened with this one. This 2018 was supposed
Yeah.
to be the way to end the franchise, and that's why Jamie Lee Curtis came back again. 2 more movies planned now
That
because it was a success.
massive hit.
Yeah.
Was it?
Oh,
It was
huge.
I didn't realize. I had a feeling it was financially successful, but I didn't realize that it was that
Yeah.
good.
Well, us horror nerds are,
We're waiting.
as a group, hypocritical when it comes to remakes, because the constant nonstop bitching about remakes, but then every remake that's of any kind of a name,
Yep.
massive success.
Oh yeah, there would be no more remakes if we didn't all flock to the
Yeah,
theater to see
exactly.
them.
Yep.
I mean, I sure as hell am gonna go and see the next two.
Yeah, sure, I will too.
But
But that's because we're we're desperate, and
Yeah.
Hollywood
Yeah.
knows that.
yeah.
Good horror. This is good. This is good. What did you see?
It's so horror, and I'm fine with that.
Yes. Yeah.
Speaking of good horror, I did actually manage to check out the Shudder original. I don't know. Shudder picked up film Spiral.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that one.
Yeah, so it was in my stuff I should watch before the end of 2020 list, and I just snuck it in under the wire, and it didn't make my like top anything, but it was definitely like a fun. It was an interesting film. And
This is not based on the
No.
Japanese manga.
No.
Oh, okay.
There
No.
was an Uzumaki animated thing, I think, that came out in 2020, but this is
Yeah.
not that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or is going to. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
definitely something. No, this one, but it does feature a spiral that you see multiple times, so that feels almost Uzumaki. But yeah.
I thought it was good. I mean, it's got a plot point or two that this is a huge stupid decision.
Yeah.
When that the big word was written on their wall,
Yes.
and he covered it up and didn't tell his lover about it.
Yeah.
Going, why
What?
did you not tell him that somebody graffitied inside your house?
Yeah.
I could see the other way around, the way the characters were written, because
Yeah.
the one guy really wanted to stay and the other guy wasn't so keen on staying. So if they'd reversed those
Oh.
characters, that might have worked.
That would have been
But
so good.
The guy who doesn't really want to be there,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It
But
was
overall, it's good, and largely because that one guy's the younger guy's performance was so good.
he was really, really excellent. And I feel like the places they went in it was a little unique to stuff I've seen. So I felt like that was refreshing. Even if it wasn't like a perfect film, there were moments where I was like, whoa, you did that? Okay, that's cool.
Help out someone who has no idea what this is about then. Elevator pitch.
Sure, absolutely. A gay couple moved to a small town to kind of get a fresh start after one of the men, who's a little bit more the straight-laced guy, is divorced and is taking his daughter with them, I should say. And they get into this town. is it in the 90s that it takes place?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's just around that time in which like the AIDS scare is at a height, and so they're not quite sure how they're going to be perceived. But the younger of the two men in the couple is like loud and proud, and the other one is very much like the suit and tie. So one is constantly like, I don't care what people think, and the other is conservative. And in the meantime, people start to kind of watch them in a weird way that feels like maybe vulturistic.
I can maybe squash your interest a little bit in this film if you like. I wouldn't be surprised if it was released by A24.
Oh,
I don't think it is.
I don't think it
deliberately
is.
paced.
It's got a slow pace. It's
Yeah.
got
It's slow and then way too fast, probably.
yeah, that's true.
But I don't know that you would love this movie, but hey, I put it on. It entertained me enough for a few hours, and then I
I
was
liked
done.
it overall, largely, like I said, largely because of the performances of him and the daughter. I think they
Yeah.
were both really good, and there's some good stuff. There's some good family stuff.
Mhm.
That one guy who's always the dumb kind of happy-go-lucky jock who played the dad
Mhm.
next door.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
fun to watch, but
Yeah.
very different role for him.
I think he was in One Tree Hill as like, wait, was he? No, he was in Riverdale.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's the dad, I think, in
I
Riverdale.
could see it, yeah. I didn't-
And so I already was kind of set up for him to be like potentially maybe not good. So even though he has a charming, very like boy, all-American
Yeah.
man next door face.
yeah, that's probably why he gets those roles.
Mhm.
All right, well, I have yet another 2020 rollover. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce this, but that's new, I know. Impetigore?
Impetigore.
Impetigore. Have you seen this one?
I saw the first 20 minutes of it, and like the first 10 minutes of it, I thought was fantastic. And then the next 10 minutes made me go, I don't know if I need to watch any more of this.
It gets better again, but you're right. The first 10 minutes are awesome. And then it becomes it's a story of two women who the main one's not doing real well financially, but finds out her family actually might have been rich, and they have this giant home that she seeks to go and find out what's wrong with it and what it is. And it starts off with her being in a toll booth and some guy stalking her, and that scene is quite good.
Yeah, I was like, whoa. But I guess I thought that, I don't know, I thought it was going to be supernatural horror, and then it didn't feel like it was going to be supernatural horror.
It
so-
goes back to that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it goes back to that with curses and pregnancy problems, and maybe her dad might have skinned kids to put skin on her kid that was
Jesus.
born without skin. It gets pretty dark, and it
Jesus.
gets
Whoa.
really, really dark. It's good. And you're right, that next 10 minutes is not great, but it gets a lot better. The problem was, unlike High Tension, where it also has a hell of a beginning,
Yeah.
but then keeps going. This one has a hell of a beginning and never reaches that peak again. But it is still pretty good. It's I don't think Indonesian film.
Right.
It is on Shudder. So I think it's labeled as the first Indonesian horror film.
No.
And I don't know how true that is. If it is, it's a pretty good start. Do some more, folks.
Oh, I'm not familiar with really any Indonesian film, and maybe this is just their structure and their speed on
be.
films.
Could be, yeah. But the beginning felt very, very modern.
It really did. I watched it, and then I started getting bored, and then I started reading reviews, and everybody was like, best opening scene ever, and the movie goes downhill, and I was like, okay.
In the modern world of streaming, where you can watch damn near anything you want to, I no problem with the idea of hitting a point in a movie going, you know what, I'm done.
Right. Well, cool, man. Why don't we take a little break and listen to a groovy old toy commercial of some kind? And when we come back, we are talking, Vanessa, about your topic, which is me, myself, and I. And you and Eric.
Deep in the canyons of Nebula, Galvatron creates Headmaster Horror Cards, fiercest Decepticons of them all.
Headmaster Transformers,
the jaws of the beast become the pilot of the plane, and the pilot of the plane becomes the head of the robot. And when the head enters the robot's body, you get a readout of its Decepticon power.
Destroy the Autobots! Never!
Each sold separately. Now with HorrorCon from Hasbro.
We have returned. Vanessa, this was your topic, so why don't you start us off on this?
Absolutely. Well, I chose a film that I hadn't had a chance to see yet and really wanted to check out. It's been recommended to me probably by you guys as well as many other people. And that movie is 2001's Session 9.
And I gotta get construction crews in here by Columbus Day, so you got a guesstimate how long?
I've got 4 really good guys. 1 week, we're gone.
That's fast.
I need the job.
So the loonies are outside in the real world, and here we are with the keys to the loony bin, boys.
You might actually want to be grateful. You're about to make some decent money.
What's the catch?
Patricia Willard scandal, 1984.
I want you to try to remember what happened 24 years ago.
Use your imagination.
These shrinks figured that with these new techniques they designed, they could release hidden memories.
You can hear me.
You okay?
I want to go home. I wouldn't tell anybody about this. If they find out about Hank, they're going to find out about the others. What are the others?
I want to come home. I am so sorry.
Very good. This
Yeah.
was on my list of possibilities.
Oh, cool. So you
Yeah.
have seen it.
Yeah, I love this movie.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. Definitely interesting watching it in 2021. Oh, it feels good to say that. Because the age is clear, but we'll get more into that in a bit. So the Rotten Tomatoes for it actually pretty low, 64% critics and 63% audience. Yeah. I mean, I kind of understand why. Again, like low budget, kind of semi-first film.
Which is weird because it was absolutely a critic's darling when it first came out. I mean,
Really?
it was the must-see supernatural horror film.
There are so many random trivia things. Like because most of the time when we do these, if it's a smaller budget film, like you can't find any info. And this one was like a tidal wave of information.
Yeah.
So I did kind of get the idea that it went down very well.
Oh, yeah.
So yes, but that being said, budget could not find. Box office 1.6 million.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know whether it was profitable or not, but I suspect after streaming, it probably is. I can't imagine it cost that much to make. The director/writer is Brad Anderson, who has done 44 projects. Frankenstein's Planet of the Monsters! Was his first.
This sounds like a movie I need to see.
Right? It sounded pretty good. But we might know him from The Machinist or Trans-Siberian. Currently, he's doing a heck of a lot of TV. So he's really deep in the TV land. But he is doing a film coming out soon coming out in a few years, I guess, called The Dwarf with Peter Dinklage. So,
nice.
Some kind of interesting projects on the horizon. He also wrote alongside one other person named Stephen Gavidan. This is Stephen's only writing credit. He also plays a character in the film named Mike. He has 55 acting credits. He is known as Neighbor with Lawnmower in War of the Worlds. He also played Klingon #1 in Star Trek Deep Space Nine crossover. Currently, he's done a few more things. He's Bernie Wolf in The Deuce, and he actually voices Joshua Trelawney in Red Dead Redemption 2. So there you go. That guy. Other people starring in this, the leads are David Caruso. Caruso?
Caruso, yeah.
He was in First Blood Rambo as that asshole cop. And
he was the great cautionary tale of leaving a hit TV show at the wrong time.
Which was his hit TV show? Was it CSI?
NYPD Blue.
No, CSI Miami.
He was also in NYPD Blue.
He was NYPD Blue, and it was a massive hit. And he went, I'm going, I'm out. He left after season 1, I think, and then did Jade. And a bunch of garbage films. Eventually got CSI Miami.
Yeah, I was going to say, because he was in 26 episodes of NYPD Blue and then did 232 episodes of CSI Miami as Horatio Kane. What a name. Also, he was in a TV movie called Mission of the Shark, the Saga of USS Indianapolis, which I thought might be right up your alley, Kelly.
That does sound like that'd be right up my alley. Do you have a year on that movie?
I do not,
Okay. Mission of the Shark.
It is a TV movie, so it might be a little bit of a dig. Like I said, Stephen Gevenon, who was the writer, he was in this. Paul Guilfoyle. Sorry. I don't know how to say these people's names. He's like the owner of the location that this is at, the mental institution. He was in Star Trek Discovery as Carl and has been in 115 things, including 317 episodes of CSI Crime Scene Investigation. So we get a lot of, you kind of getting a theme here. We also have John Lucas. There's only like 5 guys in this, 4 main ones. John Lucas plays Hank, the irritating gambler guy who steals the girlfriend. He played, he's been in 80 things, including quote unquote actor in The Forever Purge. And he was also Talbot in Hulk. Yeah, a lot of really, really, really tiny things. And he was Jake in Sweet Home Alabama. So there you go. And I guess it's funny because a lot of these people go on to be in these TV series for 20, 30, 40 episodes, and their TV series I've never heard of. So he was a pretty big role in the Firm TV series.
I didn't even realize that had gone to TV.
This was just like, what is this? Okay. And then Peter Mullen, who kind of plays our lead, Gordon, he's the owner of a company that goes into a facility, the abandoned mental institute, to clean it up. He's going to be in the upcoming Lord of the Rings series, but you might also recognize him as James Delos in Westworld. He was also in 20 episodes of Ozark as Jacob Snell. And Matt in Top of the Lake. I don't know. He's in a lot of stuff. He was in Trainspotting as Swanee. There you go. And Andy in Shallow Grave. There you go. I'm actually looking at this, trying to find things that specifically Kelly would notice.
Trying to be nice to me after last week's.
I'm doing my best. Although other thing, he was in a show called Red Riding, which was produced by Jamie Nutchins, which is a guy I knew from England. So
nice.
Yeah, he was grumpy, but that was fine. And then Brendan Sexton plays the kid nephew Jeff. He plays crop-haired guy in 3 Billboards, and Horse, who's the homeless guy in Russian Doll. So the plot, y'all. An asbestos abatement company makes a bid to remove asbestos from an abandoned psychiatric hospital. Desperate for money, Gordon bids to do a cleanup job in 1 week when realistically it would take 3. His crew include Mike, a law school dropout who knows the asylum's history, Phil, his partner, who is dealing with a difficult breakup, Hank, a gambling addict who stole Phil's girlfriend, and Jeff Gordon's young mullet-wearing, rock-listening nephew, who has a pathological fear of the dark. That was a weird one. He was like, hey, go turn on the generator downstairs. And he's like, I can't. Why? It's dark. It's like, okay, this is interesting. While cleaning out the asylum, strange things begin to happen. Gordon, who's already unhinged by the stress of a new baby, is clearly at the brink of just falling apart. He's exhausted, he's irritable, and just clearly not quite all there. Phil seems to be plotting something behind his back, though we're not quite sure what. Mike becomes obsessed with recordings of a patient with multiple personalities and wants to get through all of these tapes to session number 9, when the last personality may or may not come out of the tape and may or may not have an effect on things. We'll see.
In a horror movie. Do not play the tape. Do not read the book.
Don't go into an abandoned like psychiatric ward and like play with like teeth or read old like like medical records or play tapes of dead people. You just don't want to do it. It's not going to go well. Hank finds money in the ashes of the mortuary and plots a way to steal it. He also finds it's literally like teeth. There's literally like human. He's like, oh, I bet I could get some money for this molar. I was like, dude, have you never seen a horror film before? Because you about to die. Like, seriously. And then Jeff just kind of sucks, and that's his role. He's just sucks at everything. They start on Monday, and by Thursday, shit gets to a breaking point of no return as Mike arrives at the final tape. Gordon and Phil are ready to kill each other, and Hank suddenly comes back after disappearing for 2 days, yet seems changed. And Jeff gets trapped in the dark. Also, Oreos. So this film is it's interesting. So I'm going to talk about the bad things first. It is such a weird balance of good and bad. So the sound design is fucking awful. It is absolutely almost unwatchable because of how bad. It's like he got 100 stock sound effects and put them all at the wrong decibel level in the wrong places. It is incredibly amateur feeling in that respect. It definitely feels like a first film, but it's weird because it's so cheap. It juxtaposes these kind of, some of the characters are good actors, some are really, really bad. And having this bad filmmaking lets you be open somehow because you're like, oh, it's bad. Who cares? And then when the scary things happen, it's so effective because your guard is down. I don't know how else to describe it, but the tension in it is extremely good. It has a good use of a limited set. And I don't know. God, this film. I seriously almost turned it off after 20 minutes. I was so over it. It feels like a student film. And a lot of the set moments you get, you're like, you put a scene in here because you thought it looked cool. Like, you can really feel it. Like, this whole, they literally chose to do this film at this location because they were like, got to film in this cool hospital. Seems baller. I will say the editing is fantastic in this. It really is well paced. For the most part, the actors are decent. And like I said, there's scary moments in it that just somehow weirdly work and come out of nowhere. There's a shadow that creeped the hell out of me. It's just a shadow. I don't even know if it's actually meant to be that scary, but it scared me. There's an empty jar of peanut butter that looks like your grandma shot it on Christmas Day. And still, I was like, damn, that peanut butter came out of nowhere. So why is that downstairs? It shouldn't be here at all. Like, obviously a crew member just finished licking the inside and just chucked it into the scene, but still freaked me out. There's a weird thing with coins that almost makes no sense, but it definitely grabs you. And like, there's a chopstick moment. I don't know whether to tell people to watch this movie or not. It's so bad, but also good. I don't know.
I think effective is the word you're looking for.
Thank you. There we go. Yeah. It's effective. It's an effective movie. So I've got some fun trivia about it. Premiered at Fantasia in 2001, released on 30 screens. Brad Anderson's first horror film after directing 2 romantic comedies, which was Next to Wonderland in 98 and Happy Accidents in 2000. The director considers it an American tragedy film. The screenwriter, I hate this, the screenwriter aimed to, quote unquote, subvert conventions of the so-called horror genre that exists now and thinks it, quote unquote, less horror than it is teen thriller. Yeah, that guy's a douche.
He's saying that his own film, Session 9, is teen thriller?
Yes.
I didn't catch that.
Right? There is a
First,
singular...
you kind of got to have teens.
Yeah, there's a singular maybe he's a teen, but I thought he was like kind of in his early 20s.
And it's weird to look
nephew.
at that as subverting
Anything in
what was
horror.
he subverting in horror? It's just a horror haunted house movie is a pretty staple style of horror, and I wouldn't say that brings anything new to it.
I feel like this guy doesn't know a lot about horror, or doesn't watch a lot of horror, because this whole, like, I think he has an idea of what horror is, and he made a good film, but like, I don't know, that kind of cockiness in that quote just drove me crazy. He said it was inspired by the Richard Rosenthal case, Murder in Boston, where the director grew up in the mid, I don't know what year, because I didn't write it correctly. My finger slipped and it says -is. So in some year.
The mid is.
The man supposedly killed his wife after she accidentally burnt his dinner, then cut out her heart and lungs and put them on a stake in the backyard. Also very much inspired by the location, the Danvers State Asylum.
Okay, I get the second one.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a scene I forgot about in that movie where somebody's heart and lungs are stuck on a stake or something?
Nope.
Well, we find out that something is going on at home.
Yeah.
Okay, there's that. All right.
Yes, that is true. Gordon, I'm not going to say that because that might give away too much, but has a personality issue, maybe. We're not sure.
But based on the topic, I can say yes.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for saving me.
Something splitting headache thing or something.
Something, maybe something. Somebody in this or another may have a multiple personality of some kind. The tapes. There were only 3 rooms in this entire hospital that were actually dressed. The rest they used as is. They actually did find patient tissue and blood samples on the premises, which they did not film out of fear. The script was, like I said, written for the place. Brad Anderson used to drive past it every day. While filming the opening scene, a student pilot was flying circles overhead for 3 hours, forcing them to film in spurts when it was furthest away. As a filmmaker, I really enjoyed that. I was like, yep. Like some person just... They could only film in a small portion of the building because most of it was super dangerous and off limits. And it is true. There's a kind of thing they say in it about how homeless former patients would try to break back into the hospital and get back in. And that did actually happen. This is where it gets creepy. Actor David Caruso saw, quote unquote, something past my window when shooting. But he didn't want to tell anyone because he thought people might look at him strangely. Peter Mullen, they have a rooftop scene. He had a strange occurrence when on the roof. He heard a voice in his head that told him to jump off and see what would happen. Mullen said the building brought out a morbid kind of overactive curiosity. Danvers State Hospital, where this was filmed, was built in 1874 on a 257-foot high glacial drumlin named Hawthorne Hill. It got its name from Judge John Hawthorne. He was appointed the judge in the Salem witch trials. Hawthorne, his great grandson, was the American novelist Nathaniel Hawthorne, who changed his name to spell it with a W because he wanted to hide his relation to the only judge involved in the witch trials never to repent his actions. So, as you may have guessed, Danvers, Massachusetts was renamed from its original name of Salem Village. Apparently, there's a scene on the DVD that explains something that is very confusing in the film. So it's available via Shout Factory if you want to understand what actually happens. And apparently they really tried to make this based on The Shining. It includes Jack in The Shining wakes up in a locked kitchen enclosed with Oreos and peanut butter. Gordon also has peanut butter and Oreos in his van. Both have wives named Wendy. So,
they went deep cut there on trying to be like The
so
Shining.
Bad. It is so bad. I was like, you guys got to stop. The score, however, was done by Seattle-based band Climax Golden Twins. So, yeah. Cool. After this movie came out, apparently, so this is why I thought, maybe it did do really well. Konami video game Silent Hill 3, Brookhaven Hospital, is based on this film location. Also, there's a 2016 horror novella, Danvers the Reckoning, that is based on this. So
I would toss out a little bit that I was not thrilled with this one. I know it's just something weird when I watched it because I've wanted to go back and rewatch it. I've thought that for years. But I noticed it was a huge hit. It was giant all around with the festival people and all that, but it's kind of faded.
Yeah.
I don't hear it talked about too much. I think it's better than that. I think it needs it. I guess Shout Factory did it, so it's not completely gone.
Exactly. And there are such strong elements, but I can see if you pop this in, I don't think it would catch a modern audience because it looks really cheap. It looks really like your friend in film school made it. Just the video quality is extremely low. Some of the set design is really, really rough. And they have really thick Boston accents, a couple of them. And I find it very hard to find the fear in that. I was like, oi, I can't do a Boston accent, but I can't even
Park the car.
Park the car.
Let's go out to the car. Get away from these ghosts.
It's 100% like that. Why aren't you on the radio? I can't do it.
But please continue to try.
I can't do it so bad. But yeah, it's really difficult in moments of tension because they're yelling at each other in these really hilarious Boston accents. You're like, you got to go down to the Molly's pub and really duke it out, Anyway. Wicked. So who would like to go next?
I think
Kelly's ready to go.
Yeah, I think I'll go next because I totally won this one.
Okay.
And thank you for choosing this topic because
Excellent.
I tried a movie that I'd never seen before.
Oh, really?
And I loved it.
Yay!
It is called Raising Cain.
Looks like she was put in the car when she was still alive and then drowned. Look at her nails. See how they're cut and torn? Looks like she was trying to claw her way out. You should see the expression on her face.
I hate to bring this up, but you are married to the perfect man. I don't know.
Car popped up out of Half Moon Marsh. Got a woman's body in it.
And he's becoming awfully compulsive with Amy. He doesn't just take care of her. He studies her.
What do we got now? Two moms disappear from the same playground.
You could get us all put away for good.
I have this horrible feeling that it has something to do with his father.
I did nothing. I don't even exist.
This thing you're doing means everything to the old man.
I won't hurt her.
She'll hurt you.
We gotta find these women now. I don't want to be walking behind any lousy coffins.
I want to know what you've done with Amy.
I don't know where she is.
I do. You should never have gotten out.
Dr. Walheim.
You're nothing but a cheap hoodlum.
I am what you made me, Dad.
I know what you're going to do. It's a bad thing, and I'm going to tell.
It was Bonesy. He did it again.
That's my wife.
You saw us in the park together, didn't you?
I'm not gonna let that loving wife of yours sell you down the river.
Give me my child.
What do you think?
I think...
Hickory dickory dock. Cain has picked his lock.
From 1992.
Nice. I remember that.
I remember it getting very bad reviews, and that's why I didn't watch it. It's got a budget of $12 million and a box office of about $37 million. The Rotten Tomatoes critics have it at 58%, and the audience has it at 41%. Written and directed by Brian De Palma, who directed Carrie, The Fury, Body Double, Blowout, Scarface, The Untouchables, Mission Impossible, and the Dancing in the Dark Bruce Springsteen video.
And don't forget,
I didn't
Black
realize
Dahlia?
No, never bothered.
Oh, good.
Bad.
Don't.
This stars John Lithgow, who has 126 credits, including Footloose, 2010, Harry and the Hendersons, Cliffhanger, the Pet Sematary remake, and was the voice of Yoda in the BBC radio versions of Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Oh, that's adorable.
It also stars Lolita Davidovich, who has 100 credits, including Gods and Monsters, No Vacancy, and True Detective.
Jeez.
This movie is bonkers. It is not very good. I loved every single minute of it because John Lithgow is just carrying the entire film. He plays Dr. Carter Nix, who is a well-respected child psychologist, and his wife, Jenny, who's an oncologist. Very, very early in the movie, like the opening scene, we realize that he is struggling with split personality. And he has basically has killed a woman and stolen her baby in her car.
Oh, cool.
Good times.
And then we see him, he's taken time off from his practice to stay at home and raise their daughter, but he's just constantly doting on her. He's got a camera set up in her bedroom, and you see him like get into bed with her and talk to her until she falls asleep, and then he just observes her. And the wife is like, all right, this is a little much, but he's trying this new, he's going to be writing a book on how to raise kids doing it this way. It's a little crazy. It's super obsessive. But we learn that he is killing mothers and taking their babies or toddlers. We're not sure exactly why yet. And we also learn that his wife is having or starting up an affair that she had with a prior patient, or actually the widower of a former patient. And in a great scene, we have a flashback where she is treating this patient, this woman who's dying of cancer, and her husband is there all the time, and she's kind of falling in love with him because of how much he loves his wife, and they kind of share a moment where she reaches up and kisses him, and he's kissing her, and then he opens his eyes and looks over his shoulder, and there's his wife who's been, on the deathbed this entire time. Her eyes are open and she's staring at them, and then the heart beep thing flatlines. And so it's just this horrible scene. And
oh my God.
The movie is so crazy because, let's face it, De Palma wants to be Hitchcock and rips off every Hitchcock film ever. This one is so weird because you would think, Vanessa, talking about your last film, it's like with a split personality film, you almost kind of want to like not spoil anything because it's almost always a twist to realize, oh, it's the same person. This one, right off the bat in the first scene, Lithgow knocks this woman out and starts freaking out because there's some joggers who are going to be coming and finding him. And then there's another John Lithgow there who's a little cooler and starts walking him through what he has to do to get away.
So it's like a physical manifestation?
Yes.
That's cool.
So like right off the bat, you're told he's got this problem, and that's not what the mystery of the movie is. So he kind of puts that aside and said, now let's get on with this story. So she ends up starting this affair back up with this man, and her husband sees them. And when he sees them, one of his personalities comes out again and says, hey, we've been doing this horrible thing, and let's blame it on this guy that she's having the affair with. So they do that, and then he ends up killing his wife. She starts asking questions, and she knows something's going on, and he knocks her out, and in a scene right out of Psycho, he puts her in a car and drives the car into the lake and watches it sink.
Wow.
And she, of course, is not dead. She starts pounding on the windows as the car is filling up, and he just watches her go down into the lake. And it's like, whoa, this dude's bad. The thing is, though, she's not dead either. She comes back too. And at first you're a little this would have been, I think, a better way to play this is this in his head that she's back, but very quickly we realize, no, she's actually back.
Wow.
And he is apprehended by the police for attempted murder. The police bring in this psychologist to interrogate him, and this psychologist worked with his father. And this is where the movie just takes on this amazingly creepy scene, because she's telling the police, he looks just like his dad, and I worked with his dad, and here's the story of me working with his dad. His dad wrote a book about a young boy who had multiple personality disorder. It opened up all sorts of new ways of testing, new information that they had never known about or anything like that. And he had all of these theories on what would cause something like this to happen, but you'd never know, right? Because you only get a person with this mental disability after it becomes apparent they have it. So he decided to traumatize his child and try to make these things happen, try to make a multiple identity disorder occur in his own kid.
Whoa.
So that he could study. And it's just like so fucking horrifying. Well, of course, Carter, Kane, they break out. He attacks the psychologist who's talking to him, steals her dress and wig, and escapes because one of his personalities is a woman who's kind of a motherly figure. What we learn is he's got like 6 personalities in him. And one of them's a little boy. One of them's this evil guy. One of them's this womanly, or not womanly, but motherly woman. But they're all kind of shitty. Is the problem. So it's not like he's got, a good version of himself.
Can I please talk to Bob?
So then I guess the twist is at the end when we find out that the father, who was supposedly dead, is actually alive, and he's continuing his bullshit. And the reason that Nix is doing this is procuring babies for his dad to continue his horrible experiments on him.
Oh my God.
It turns into a really nice Hitchcock ending where, everybody could die, or maybe something would happen, and then a nice little end shock moment, just before it cuts to credits. But I watched this movie with a smile on my face the entire time. I was like, this fucking movie is bonkers, and I can't believe I passed it up in the theater. Lithgow and De Palma seemed like just a match made in heaven. The movie, as it was originally written, was supposed to start with the wife's story. And then we were supposed to gradually learn that John Lithgow had these issues. That was supposed to come in the second act. But the producers didn't like the way that it was coming together as they were editing it. So De Palma switched it and put, he made it front heavy with Lithgow's stuff. But he'd always said that he was a little disappointed with how it came out. In 2012, a fan did a fan recut of the film and cut it the way that De Palma liked it or wanted it to be cut. And he reordered all the scenes as originally intended and released it on the web. And De Palma was so pleased with the results that when the film was going to be released on Blu-ray by Shout Factory in 2016, he was able to convince Shout to hold off on their initial release so the recut could be included on the Blu-ray.
Whoa.
This fan cut is now considered the director's cut.
Oh my God.
Holy shit.
Way to go.
How cool is that?
That guy must be so happy, or girl, with themselves.
His name is Pete Gelderblom, and it says here, Gelderblom expressed on his website how extremely happy he was.
Yeah, I bet.
No kidding.
Jeez, that is the thing that you would die for.
It really makes me want to grab that director's cut or that Shout
Factory. Yeah, I wonder
so
if
I can
that's still
see
available.
what the cut is like.
Yeah.
And then finally, I thought this was cute. There's a fan theory for the TV show Dexter, which Lithgow is also on.
Yes.
That his character, Arthur Mitchell, is the twin brother of Carter from Raising Cain.
That's so funny.
Oh, that's a fun one.
I mean, I was just going to mention, John Lithgow in Dexter is one of the most phenomenal performances.
He still seems, as well lauded as he is, he still feels like an underrated actor.
Yeah.
Well,
good.
I don't know, 10 years on Third Rock from the Sun, which was very highly regarded.
Yeah.
So I think that people love him. He's just, he's a character actor.
Yeah.
He's got a face. He's never going to be a leading man.
Right.
So, but I never made it that far into Dexter. I think I gave up about halfway through the second season.
Yeah, no, it's you don't want to watch it too long because it does not get super good. But that season where he's almost like a rival to
that was pretty good.
Dexter, it was very good because he's
good.
like the perfect father figure, but also complete maniac.
Man, it's
Yeah.
Well, you know that I had done my De Palma rewatch, and I had purposely left this off because of the bad reviews. And you gave me, Vanessa, an opportunity to check this out. And I was just like, you know what? This is better than some of his films, earlier films that everybody loved. That I hate Scarface. I think it's a bad movie. I think this movie is so much stronger.
I don't hate Scarface, but man, I do not get the obsession with it. I think as far as
it's pretty
gangster
boring
movie goes, it's definitely in the mid to low range.
I have a theory that everyone who has a Scarface poster in their man cave has not actually seen the movie.
I do
just
wonder.
Seen that ending, just seen the ending scene with that "say hello to my little," that whole thing.
Yeah.
But
man, well, I'm so glad that you checked it out,
Yes.
and I'm more excited to get into more De Palma. I love Carrie, so
yeah, go early, man. Whew, Black Dahlia is.
I have
awful.
seen Black Dahlia, and I
You
remember.
actually watched all of it?
I don't know.
I
That
made
I
it
can't
like
promise.
10 minutes in, and then, hey, look, there's this low budget, no budget movie called Black Dahlia. Let's see what that's like. And that was not good either.
Yeah, Body Double and Blowout are excellent.
Blowout is so good.
Wait a second. Yeah. Blowout has an editor as the main hero.
Sound guy.
Well, sound guy. That's right.
I know of Blow Up, but that's like a French.
Blowout is
John Travolta.
Blowout's great.
Oh,
it's
cool.
He's a post-production sound editor, so and it's really cool.
That's fun.
And it's integral to the story. It's not. It just doesn't happen to be his job. It is the story.
Ooh,
it's really good.
Ooh, okay.
Watch it tonight.
Yeah,
I will watch it very soon. I will tell you that.
All righty. Well, my movie is one that I see pop up all the time. That reminds me, it's like I keep seeing it pop up on Netflix or wherever it is now. I think it's Amazon, and going, is this a film that was submitted to MIF when I was running Maelstrom International Film Festival? So I was like, I finally watched it because it came out in 2009, so it's about the right time. It's called Heartless.
Feels like I've got this parallel life.
Hey, freak!
I've got this life where people look at me and they call me names. And then I've got this other life where, I'm just like you.
In the shadows where he lives, he's the only one who can see them.
That world out there? Hell.
It's like I open up the window and all this madness flies in.
Gang, they come up from nowhere. Sounds like wild animals.
He's the only one trying to stop them.
Please don't know what this is. You know what's doing all of this, don't you? There are demons.
You know where this is, don't you? I'm waiting for you.
But when a stranger makes him an offer,
I thought you might be ready for making a deal.
A deal?
Can have what you've always wanted.
What would I have to do?
Be out of my world of art.
it will turn his world inside out. Now,
I used to have this birthmark right across the side of my face.
he has the life he always wanted.
You're expecting me, I believe.
But the battle for his soul
You can't expect me to actually kill somebody.
is about to begin.
You're in danger.
For what?
From me.
Run!
I don't know how to kill.
Don't say I won't, say I will.
I've seen the future, Jamie.
Run!
And it's the kingdom of horror.
Not familiar.
Yeah, probably not. You might have seen the photo. It's got, or the poster around because it's around a lot. But Rotten Tomatoes has it at 78 for critics and 47 for audience, which seems about right. It lists as a budget of $5 million, which seems a little high, but it definitely could do it. And it's a theater or a festival darling, so it made like $20,000 at the theater. Directed and written by Philip Ridley, who did The Reflecting Skin and The Passion of Darkly Noon, and wrote all the same things. Reflecting Skin's the only one I really recognize. Like, okay, I know that name. Starring Jim Sturgis, who you might know from the card movie 21 or Cloud Atlas. He's also in Across the Universe. He's gone on to do quite a bit. Luke Treadaway, who's in Attack the Block and the Clash of the Titans remake. Clemency Posey, I believe is her name, who's in Burgess and Tennant, Harry Potter movies, like the last 3 Harry Potter movies, and Gossip Girls. And she's very recognizable. If you don't know her name, you would know who she is. And Noel Clarke, who played Thomas Harewood in Star Trek Into Darkness.
Huh.
The idea is there's a guy who's got, if you know Jim Sturgis, he's a leading man, good-looking kind of actor. And in this movie, he has a giant heart-shaped birthmark on his face and birthmarks down his chest and onto his arm. And so, he's made fun of and treated weird and stuff. It takes place in London.
Ooh, London.
It starts off with him as a photographer, or as a photographer's assistant, watching the guy take pictures and kind of getting a little crush on this lady there. And of course, she doesn't act mean to him, but she does react to the face. I mean, if you took your hand and stuck it on your face, that's how big this birthmark is. It's huge.
Wow.
Gets made fun of by local friends or local gang kind of things and stuff. But while wandering the streets one night, he runs into something very bizarre. And there's these weird sounding noises he's hearing. So he kind of follows them and finds these 3 hooded people attacking a guy. But when it turns around and yells at him, it's a giant weird lizard face. So it's like, what? These guys turn later to attack him and burn his mother to death in front of him.
Whoa.
All right.
They got dark.
Yes. The film does have the problem of becoming melodrama occasionally. It's good. It's well acted melodrama, but still it's like, okay, lighten up just a little bit, guys. And they seem to they kind of abandoned his job really quickly, and he falls into really fast, weird stuff starts to happen. He's researching, trying to figure out where these guys are, and it leads him to this very creepy looking man in a wonderfully decrepit set of like an abandoned apartment or something, which is really well put together. And you kind of quickly figure out that he's probably the devil. And the devil makes a deal with him. This is where the split personality thing comes in. He removes the birthmark.
Oh.
By setting him on fire and having him come out in a incredibly well done, disturbing scene where he peels the burnt skin off of himself to reveal the new fresh baby skin underneath. Like, oh, okay. Geez. And the devil has a little assistant. He's got this little girl that's with him that sort of convinces him to do things. Of course, once the birthmark is removed, he run into the lady that sort of snubbed him before, and they start hanging out, and good things happen for him, as you know what I mean there. A couple weird things in the film that those creatures with the faces almost disappear for the entirety of the movie. They're in the beginning and the end, and that's about it. The story becomes about him dealing with how he looks now versus how he looked before. And everything that was set up in the beginning kind of disappears. Like, this is a little weird. And they drop huge story elements. His job, the photography job, disappears until it becomes a plot factor again. His family kind of disappears once the mom dies. Everybody they've got this big scene where everybody's giving each other, I think it's Christmas presents or something. They all disappear. They all run out of town or something. So he's got the apartment alone where his mom lived. And the deal with the devil, of course, he has to kill a person and leave the heart on a church step. Yowza, that's a bloody kill. It's really grim. And his performance is great in it. And the little girl starts calling him daddy. So I was like, oh, that's creepy. And I think I know why. So, of course, the devil comes back and said, you've stolen my whatever. Now you have to kill somebody else. And, it's his girlfriend. Now, I really was mediocre on this film until I was kind of doing research. And the research I read adjusted my thinking on it, which helped it a lot. As opposed to a straight movie, it's a lot of people who really enjoy it look at it as a fairy tale. And as a fairy tale, it's quite good. As a film, it's a little disjointed and hard to follow. But fairy tales have their own weird logic and skip shit all the time and are never particularly perfect in the way they tell stuff. And I think it's a really good way to look at this film. I honestly don't remember if it was submitted to MIF or not.
I wanted to know if it was.
I think it was, and I wasn't able to show it because it got picked up, which is pretty common when you're running a small festival. It looks great. The acting is incredible. There's a reason everybody in there has gone on to be in dozens of productions. And the director's gone on. The Reflecting Skin's pretty artsy. So overall good, just not great. Little interesting things about it. There's a lot of songs in the movie, and some are good and some are not. The lead actor, Jim, ends up singing two of them. And they started off, and he came to the director and said, is it possible for me to sing a couple of these songs? And at the time, they both kind of agreed that that's not really a good idea. It might be a little weird or self-serving. But as the movie came together, they both came to the realization that, that's a really good idea. It fits the character. There's two songs that really fit the progression of the character. Why don't you sing those two? And so he did. And he's pretty good.
Is he singing them like as a person singing them in the movie, or he's just the soundtrack?
It's like Dirty Dancing, where it's a soundtrack song.
Okay.
But he sings two of them.
Oh, wow.
The director looked at the songs as a Greek chorus commenting on what was going on in the movie. So every song in the film heard on the radio or in a club or whatever is intended to be part of the score and is part of the film, which is an interesting take. I don't know how successful that is because, not like I'm listening to the lyrics or the songs most of the time. But luckily, the songs Jim sings are probably the best songs in the movie. So, good call. I'm grabbing those. The film premiered in August 31st at 4 Films Fright Fest. Or Film 4's Fright Fest, excuse me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
Played around the world, won Best Independent Feature at Toronto After Dark, won the Grand Prix prize at Fantas Porto, a couple other Leeds International Film Festival and stuff. It won several Best of awards. It's a well-executed film, and it's a really good festival film.
Mm-hmm.
And there's sometimes festival films are, maybe not as great as you might think, but have something really interesting about them. And this fits into that. What are the reviews of somebody who, tell me if you think he liked it or not. Ben Rawson Jones of Digital Spy. The form and content are a perfect match in Heartless. Both are desperately terrible.
Oh my God. Wow.
Okay. So, he didn't like the film very much, I'm guessing. Overall, it's, like I said, it's got, 70 or something. It's a pretty solid film. It's well worth watching. I'm glad I finally watched it just to get rid of that thing in my head every time I saw the poster going.
Sure.
But you don't have an answer.
But I know the film now. And that's actually all I need.
I do kind of feel like I should check this film out. I did actually have a giant birthmark on my face until I was 9 or 10, and then it faded away, but across my entire forehead.
Oh, wow.
And I still have one going up like most of the back of my head. Yeah. So, but had I known when I was like 7 that I could just bargain with the devil and get it to go away,
Sure.
I might have made different choices in my life.
Maybe you did.
Ooh, that explains a lot.
All right. Well, good topic choice, Vanessa.
Yeah,
I like
very
this
nice.
one a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But that means it's my choice finally.
Yes.
That's right.
After teasing me last week.
What do I need to go and research in Google?
Okay. I'm calling this next episode Destination Horror. This is going to be like vacation horror, or, you know, you had to go someplace to get to this horror. If you just stayed home, you would have been fine. But no, you wanted to go to camp. Now you got a hockey mask wielding maniac coming and killing you and all your friends. Or something like The Hills Have Eyes, which was, a family in a motorhome that got caught in the wrong place. So, yeah, something like that.
Boy, the as they're termed, redneck horror would fall very strongly into this, I would think.
Sure, I think like every wrong turn movie starts with this premise.
Yep.
Well, it seems wide open enough and also interesting enough. I should be able to find one of my would love to and need to watch movies to throw into this.
Sure, I mean, I'm sure you can shoehorn The Fog into this somehow.
I mean, he does drive to there.
That's right.
He doesn't start off in that town.
He's heading to Antonio Bay. All right, everybody. That's everybody's homework for the week, too. So I'd love to hear what everybody else has to say.
Yep.
Thanks to everybody who's saying all the nice things, who's leaving reviews, who is sharing the links when the episodes go live.
Do you have a reaction to Joe Sherlock's comment on 1980s Road Warrior timeline?
Oh, yeah. I saw that message and I loved it. I'm not sure when the film was supposed to actually take place. I mean, I know it was shot in the 80s, so saying that it took place in the 80s when it's clearly a future wasteland doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Mm-hmm. But I'm just going off the memes that had him walking down the middle of the street. So
yeah, those are fun. Yeah. Thank you, Joe, for doing research.
Well, not just that. I just liked his entire comment there was nicely thought out. So thanks, Joe, for the kind words and even paying any attention to us.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, thank you. I had a friend who is a fellow game trailer editor who decided to pick us up and listen to us on a road trip and really dug it. So thanks for checking us out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And George Vaughn kept on telling me, hey, I'm listening to Strange Eons radio. And I was like, what do you want, a metal? I don't give a fuck.
Wow.
Thanks, George. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Ignore Kelly. Damn, son.
They did say that they were going to now, after the episode they last listened to, check out Nightmare on Elm Street again because they hadn't seen it since it had first come out.
Oh, cool.
That was our episode of the films that we thought defined horror for us.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, no lie, thanks to everybody who listens and gives us a little bit of their time. We really, really appreciate that.
Definitely.
Okay, we'll be back in 1 week. Our show is recorded somewhere high above Naval Station Everett at the nexus of all realities and is engineered and produced by Eric Morgret. Our theme music is Strange Eons Part 1 by the band Nightshade and is used with permission. Find Strange Eons Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and wherever fine podcasts are found.